Brace yourself. It's Andy Snowden, stage and stage and stage and screen. Stage and screen.
Go ahead, make my day.
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me.
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
Here's Johnny.
Life is a box of chocolates, Forrest. You never know what you're gonna get.
Tell me about it, Stud.
I see dead people.
Stage and screen.
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
Well, welcome back to the second hour of Andy Snowden with music from stage and screen and anything you've ever seen on your television box. And coming up in this hour, we're going to hear from Theatre Clwyd's Executive Director, Mr. Liam Evans-Ford, as Theatre Clwyd have just launched their spring season, and some rather terrific plays and events taking place up at Theatre Clwyd in 2019. And also as well, after 2:30 this afternoon, we will be getting full coverage of Wrexham against Dagenham and Redbridge. Full commentary with Mark Griffiths coming up. Marvellous. And now I am pleased to say that I am joined in the studio by a bit of an old friend of the show. I think we can quite honestly say it's not I don't think it's putting too much of a finer point on it. The third time you've been in now, isn't it?
Yes, it's the third time I've been in over the last couple of years. So yeah, really glad to be here.
Fantastic. So you didn't get lost coming here today?
No, I didn't get lost this time. No.
This is you are the, let me get this right, you're the director of the Suitcase Theatre Company.
Yeah, I'm the company manager of Suitcase Theatre.
Right, okay, marvellous. So that's the company manager?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Yes, no messing about you.
No.
Yeah. Don't mess around when Rob's in the room, right? Anyway, they are doing, the Suitcase Theatre Company, that is, they are going to be doing a couple of events, one in Mold Town Centre and one in Theatre Clwyd. And Robert's come in this afternoon to tell us all about it. First things first, how's it all going at the Suitcase? There's lots of you seem really busy as a company.
Yeah, no, we're really busy at the moment. We've got a lot of interest. We've really been growing our membership, particularly with the new play we've been doing. So we're trying to do a lot of things and keeping our schedule running all the time.
Yeah.
So it's a really exciting time.
How many things you do about a year, do you reckon?
So we try and do probably about 3 or 4 things a year.
Uh-huh.
The first half of the year has been a little bit quieter. However, when we're looking into next year, we've got things coming up as well. So we've got quite a packed schedule coming up. But we like to sort of do one sort of large play every year in the Emily Williams Theatre, and then do a few other smaller events in the local area.
Yeah.
The rest of the year.
Yeah, fantastic. And this thing that you're doing here, this it's called a Wounded Peace, which I mean we were saying just before when the news was on there that you do quite a lot of work for the sort of celebrating either the First World War, the Second World War. This is celebrating 100 years of armistice. You tell us about it.
Yeah, so we've been doing quite a few wartime pieces, particularly as because it's been the centenary of the First World War over the last sort of 4 years. So we've done we did All Quiet, I think it was that 4 years ago, which was about the start of the First World War and was a bit of an adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah.
And then we also did an event called the 1917 Music Hall, which was like the music hall set in 1917 with poems and things like that.
My son was in it.
Yes, your son sang in it. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's very good, very good.
Yeah.
We did that, and then this year we're doing, because it's going to be 100 years since the armistice, we're doing a Wounded Peace,
right?
Which is set on the day of the armistice in Leeswood Hall near Mold.
Oh, fantastic! Is it a true story? Is it?
Well, it's not necessarily a true story, but it's based on true events, if you like. So during the First World War, Leeswood Hall was a convalescent hospital.
All right.
So it was used for soldiers recovering from not necessarily life-threatening wounds, but sort of mental and disabled wounds to be able to go back to the front.
Yeah.
So it's set on the day of the armistice in the hall. Now, the characters are all fictional except for Violet Winneaton, who was the genuine owner of the hall.
Right.
But it's based around those events at the time.
Okay. So they basically brought them back, fixed them up, and sent them back.
Yeah, and that's one of the sort of paradoxes the player has to deal with, particularly with the doctor there, because he's kind of being ordered to patch people up to kind of send them back to the front to die. So it's kind of, there's a bit of a conflict there, a bit of a moral conflict. So there's lots of different conflicts in it that we try and demonstrate, because even though peace was a great thing for many of the soldiers, they viewed it in a slightly different way, because in some ways some of them were out of work, some of them it was all they would have known, and some of them have been through such traumatic experiences, and they were kind of being asked to go back into society. Particularly people who had lost limbs and things like that. They knew that they were going to struggle to find work or fit into a society that in many ways wasn't built to accept them, if you like.
Yeah, and that still happens today.
Yeah,
that's one of those things that people still, and now of course we get the Help the Heroes charity. But you can imagine the beginning of the 19th century, there'd be none of all that. That'd be sort of like man up and crack on with it, wouldn't it? That would have been the attitude.
Yeah, I mean that was the thing. I mean one of the things was that shell shock, which was the big, one of the big medical effects of being on the front, where people would sort of be shaking all the time, was a mental condition, but it wasn't medically recognised, so doctors couldn't actually say this person's got shell shock. They had to just sort of say, pull yourself together.
Yeah, something wrong with him.
And that kind of environment did make it very difficult for soldiers during the First World War.
Yeah. Well, thank God that's changed, because I couldn't think of anything worse. I couldn't think. I remember talking to my granddad, and my granddad went to the Second World War, but my dad, as he grew up, and I remember, and as a lot of people, I think of our kind of generation who sort of grown up at the back end of the century, we all sort of like went, well, I wouldn't go. But like your parents or anybody that was involved at that time, you'd say, well, you didn't really have that much of an option.
No.
And if you did think you had an option, you were made to feel really guilty for not going.
Yeah, exactly.
So you either go and fight and die, or fight and come back with possibly losing a limb or psychologically disturbed for the rest of your life, or stay here and have people throw things at you because you haven't gone to fight for your country.
There weren't many good options. So.
Yeah. Awful. What an awful state of affairs. And it's a brand new piece. It's been written by Mike Stevens again. He does quite a bit of stuff for you, doesn't he, Mike?
Yeah, no, he writes a lot of things. So he originally started the group, it was 10 years ago now, with our first play, which was again another World War II play.
Is he a historian or something? Is that how he gets involved?
Well, I think he enjoys history. He's not particularly an historian. He used to be a English teacher, I think.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I think many people will know Mike Stevens, or Mr. Stevens. All the students go, I had something Stevens, I don't remember. Anyway, so, fantastic. Oh, brilliant. So, it's in English, that's Andy.
Yeah.
And with Welsh, that's also been spoken, which I presume is keeping it real.
Yeah, keeping it real. Yeah, the Welsh that is being spoken is not... If you don't speak Welsh, you can still get along fine. It's not. It's mainly between the Welsh characters who obviously lived in Leeswood at the time and came to the hall and things like that. So, there's different bits of Welsh being spoken.
Fantastic. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to hold it there for a second because we're going to have a little bit of music, and then we'll talk about the second thing you're doing. It's a poetry evening. I won't say too much at this present time, but I did say to Rob when we were having a bit of a chat then that when we were listening to the Rainbow theme tune, that sometimes with theme tunes you don't realise it's actually a proper like 3 or 4 minute song, and this is a very good example of this. This is Stephen Fretwell. I'm not going to tell you from what television programme it is. You can guess, right? You just have a listen to this, and at some point you'll go, oh yeah, I know it, yep. So did you get it? It's one of those when you just go, oh, there it is. Yeah, there we are. Stephen Fretwell, and that's called Run, and it is the theme tune, of course, to Gavin and Stacey. Gavin and Stacey, now there's a There's a programme that they should bring that back.
Yeah, definitely.
That was a great programme, wasn't it? Weirdly about that, I never watched it first time round, and it was only around about, I think it was a Christmas special. My kids said, "Oh, we're going to watch Gavin and Stacey," and I thought, "Oh God!" I thought it was like for teenagers.
Yeah,
that's what I thought anyway. But yeah, I watched it, and then that night I just watched the whole thing back to back. Yeah, back to back on Netflix. Brilliant, Gavin and Stacey, excellent, and everything that them two do these days seems to be amazing as well. I don't know her name, Ruth Jones. Is it Ruth Jones? Yeah, it is Ruth
Sounds
Jones.
familiar, yeah.
And, of course, James Corden, who's huge across the world. Anyway, I am in the studio this afternoon, live in the studio, and I love a live chit-chat with Rob Derry from... is it Rob or Robert? Let's get this right. Don't want to upset your mum.
Rob Derry.
There you go, you heard it from the horse's mouth. So from the Suitcase Theatre Company, and they, if you didn't hear the beginning of Rob's section here, he's doing a play called A Wounded Peace up at Theatre Clwyd, and that's in November, starting on November the 7th until Saturday the 10th of November. But before that, a little bit closer to time, this is a terrific thing, this. They are doing this. I say the Suitcase Theatre Company are doing a series of poems from the poet Daniel Owen.
Yeah, so it's going to be an evening of short story readings from Daniel Owen, who is a Welsh writer from the 19th century. So we're actually reading his English translated versions because we don't have a large contingent of Welsh speakers, but we're going to be reading 5 of his stories from the time. So he published a collection called Straeon y Pentan, which is the Welsh version, and we're reading the English translated version called Fireside Tales.
Right.
And we're reading 5 stories from that, and they're very sort of relaxed conversational stories, so they really work being read aloud in sort of like a nice pub setting, which is where we've got it. Yeah. And then we've also got 2 stories from some of his contemporaries, so one of them from W.F. Harvey and another from Robert Louis Stevenson of Treasure Island fame. And then we've also got an original short story written especially for the event from Fiona Holland, who has written a story as part of a competition we ran to collect original short stories. So there's going to be 8 short stories read, 4 in the first half, then a bit of a little break with refreshments, and then a second half of more great short stories.
Oh, fantastic! So is this a celebration of something, or have you just been asked to do it?
So this takes part every year. So in Mold they do the Daniel Owen Festival every year, which is a celebration of Daniel Owen and his works. So it's taking place during the week we're doing the reading. So it's during the week of the 25th of October.
Okay.
And they do various different events. So some of them have got a bit more of a historical spin. So I believe there's a walk around Mold, around the different events and places where he lived in Mold. And we're doing this short story reading event in the Pentan pub, which used to be his workshop, I believe, at one time.
Oh, really?
In the past.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, yeah.
All right. Because I think because when you live round here, you know, and I lived in London for 12 years, and it was when I lived in London that I realised that the different sort of the stories and the history around the place that you grew up.
Yeah.
That you just had no idea whatsoever, you know, and you just think, my God, that actually happened. I remember listening to a Max Boyce album, and he talked about a pub in Ruthin that I used to go into all the time when I was a teenager, and then I thought, but the weird thing was, I used to listen to that album when I was a kid. So you sort of listen to something so long, and then the next minute you listen to it as an adult, and you go, "Oh right, marvellous." So it's the Pentan pub in Mold that you're doing it in, not at Theatre Clwyd.
Not at Theatre Clwyd. This one, no, this one. I mean, because it's a short story evening reading, it really is well suited to. We're doing it in a lounge, then it's really well suited to that kind of more intimate setting.
Right. That is nice though. That I like that.
Yeah.
Nice,
and it's free as well, so anyone can come.
Oh, there you go, perfect. Oh my God, that's my favourite word. Superb. So how many's in that cast? Is it just the 5 year?
So there's 8 readers in total.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's 8 readers, and there's going to be 4 in the first half, 4 in the second half.
Okay. All right. Oh, that sounds lovely. Oh, that's beautiful. And do you have to call for tickets? Is the ticket number there? So could give that number out, or
no? So you can just
rock up on the day.
Rock up on the day.
Okay.
It's going to be open door. So.
All right. Brilliant. So that's a Daniel Owen at home, it's being called.
Yes.
Right, brilliant. And that's going to be at the Pentan pub in Mold on the 25th of October. That's just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just a couple of weeks from now. And are you ready?
Yes.
Are you reading it, or have you learnt them, or have they? What? How does it work?
No, they're reading them rather than learning them, because I mean some of the stories are, a few pages long, so it'll be quite a lot to learn. So they're being read rather than, but we've done some rehearsals and they are familiar with them.
Yeah. They call them rehearsed readings.
Yes.
Okay. I've done rehearsed readings, and I'm not the best reader. I've got to admit, I wouldn't say I was dyslexic, but I'm not a brilliant reader. And it was at the Royal Court in London, right? And they said, would you come and do this thing? So I did. My wife came to see it. Awful. I made a right idiot of myself, really, really bad. It came to a word I just couldn't pronounce, so I just blanked it. And I actually said, can anyone read that word for me? Terrible. Anyway, that is taking place on the 25th of October, and let me just give you the location again, because it's not in Theatre Clwyd. It's Pentan on the New Street in Mold. I love a play. I love anything that's sort of like that takes place in a pub. Theatre Clwyd are doing a few things like that. The Dolphin pub.
Yes.
And it's just a rundown pub, and they're like building it and putting sets in there and building the whole thing, and they're using the whole space upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah,
I've
heard about this really exciting project.
Yeah, and the bar, which is more important. Superb. Let's have a quick recap then on the Wounded piece kicking off in Theatre Clwyd at the Emlyn Williams Theatre, and I love that space as well, the Emlyn Williams Theatre. That's the studio, and this is called A Wounded Piece, kicking off on the 7th of November until the 10th of November. And I'm just looking on the website here, low availability, which is great for you.
Yeah.
Not good if you want to go and see it and you haven't got your tickets
you need
yet.
to go get your tickets now, because they are going to go fast.
Yeah, marvellous. Okay, great for Suitcase. You're really going from strength to strength, this theatre company.
We really are.
Really, really good. And box office number, if you want to get tickets for that, 01352 701 521. That's 01352 701 521.
Hands in the air, like you just...
Rob, thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me.
Brilliant.
It's been great.
I think you're more than welcome anytime you want to come in to see us. Come and see us anytime you fancy, and let us know how this thing goes as well, because that'll be a cracker.
Yeah, it's just good. It's going to be brilliant. So get your tickets.
Yeah, marvellous. Take it easy on yourselves. There he is. That's Rob Derry from the Suitcase Theatre Company, just about to take Mold by storm.
It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show.